I want to report something from the morning class. You're going to remember this one. Pran Govinda is his name. He suggested a verse that I looked up, and I couldn't find what he said the verse said. Now, maybe it's there and I just couldn't read it, but it was, the verse is Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya speaking about, he didn't like the word Mukti Pade Sadaya Bhak. He wanted it to be Bhakti Pade Sadaya Bhak. And then he said, because when people hear the word Mukti, they think of merging, and that's not nice. So it should be Bhakti, Bhakti Pade. And then this verse is, there are two kinds of merging. One is merging into the effulgence, and the other is merging into the personal form. Of the two, merging into the personal form is worse. That's the verse. And then the purport goes into describing nothing that I could find here about merging into the causal ocean. Because that was the morning's Bhagavatam verse, was Prabhupada said something I couldn't find anywhere else. There's two ways of merging. Merging in the Brahmajyoti or merging into the causal ocean. And then here speaks of merging into the Brahmajyoti and merging into the personal form. And then if you remember from the morning class, there was some reference to, in Patanjali Yoga Sutras, there's a description of merging into the personal form. But there's no mention in this purport about merging into the causal ocean. I'll read. And some of you like to communicate with Pran Govinda, you can ask him, where is this causal ocean merging thing? And I sent it to Prema Tarangati, this, the copy of the verse, so she could forward it to him and you can ask him directly. So here we go. The followers of the Patanjali Yoga system actually want to merge into the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This indicates that they do not want to engage in His service, despite their knowledge of Him. So Patanjali Yoga accepts that Krishna has a spiritual form, and they desire to merge into that spiritual form. There's a further detail, I'm not going to read the whole thing. It doesn't mention causal ocean, but it mentions that when they merge into the personal form, their identity as individuals no longer exist. Now, in the verse that is in chapter 2 of Canto 2, verse 16 and 17, 17 says, those that go into this Navdo Prashanti stage, they transcend time. They go beyond the other side of time. It's a little bit like, I don't know if you're interested in this, but I'm interested in this, so I'm going to talk about it. I'm interested in this in part because of visits to China. And from visiting China, I have found that people will say, even if they don't know anything about Buddhism, they say they're a Buddhist. Many people. And then if you can, I don't press their buttons. But Buddhism, as you know, has an idea, like the goal of Buddhism is nirvana. Yes? Yes. And what's nirvana? Nirvana, by definition, is cessation of material existence. Or the English way of saying, literally, it's out of the woods. cessation of material existence. That's how Prabhupada describes it. Cessation of material existence, nirvana. So how do you get to nirvana? You have to stop material desire. And then you can get to nirvana. So how do you stop material desire? What's the transit lounge? Two things. And one of them has to do with time. One thing is you live a life in goodness. Nonviolence, compassion, charity, cleanliness, simplicity, life of goodness. And mindfulness. Everybody knows mindfulness in America because it's commercialized now. In downtown Chicago, I was going to a program at the University of Illinois, Chicago, and as we were driving through the city streets, there's a big hamburger joint, and the big sign says, the home of the mindful burger. That's what I thought. Your sound was what my thought was when I saw that thing. So it's just, now it's commercialized, but mindfulness is a buzz. So what is mindfulness? Jiva Goswami describes it this way in Tattva Sandarbha. Kshanik Vada Buddhism. Kshanik is, the chapter in Srimad Bhagavatam of calculation of time by the atom. It's one of the, microsecond divisions of time. Kshana is a moment. So Kshana Vada, the doctrine of be in the moment, because that's another way of saying mindfulness. Be in the moment, be in the moment, be in the moment. And when you get really good at being in the moment, what happens? You go on the other side of the moment. And what's that? That's nirvana. So mindfulness, or being in the moment together with the life of goodness, is Buddhism, to get to the good place. Cessation of material existence. Void. It's just nice sounding, but it's voidism. Cessation of material existence. But time is not acting there, in that nirvana space. So going back to the Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 2, Text 17, Labdho Prashanti, it's getting to that place. It's right in the Bhagavatam. It doesn't say, go into the nirvana place or go into voidism. It just says where time is no longer active. And one of those places where time is no longer active is the causal ocean. But in the causal ocean, do you exist or do you stop to exist as an individual? You exist as an individual. Now the reference that Pran Govinda gave this morning was from this purport where it speaks of the Patanjali Yoga folks, and they like the idea of merging into the body of the Supreme Lord, Krishna. They accept Bhagavan has a spiritual form. Bhagavan has a spiritual form. And their goal is merge with that spiritual form. And then you're no longer an individual, but you're literally merged with the Supreme Soul. Guess what? It's just a cute way you become God. It's not bhakti. It's not two, it's one. They believe that when one becomes perfect, he cannot remain a person. This is right from Pran Govinda's, the purport he was mentioning. The yoga system is therefore abominable because its final conception is impersonal. In the beginning, these yogis accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they ultimately give up this idea in order to become impersonal. They are most unfortunate because although they have a personal conception of the absolute truth, they neglect to render devotional service to the Lord and thus fall down again into the material world. No mention at all about the causal ocean, which was the question I was raising at the beginning of the class this morning. And you have Brihad Bhagavatamrita here? Yes? This one? Okay. 2.2 point. I forget the verse number. I sent it to you. Could you find it? And I sent it to Sachi Kumar also to print it for me for tomorrow. You there? Open up the phone. Open it up, and it gives the 2.2 point something. Huh? Oh, there we go. There we go. There, let me have it. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't even say the verse number. Gosh. So here's the translation. Listen, this is Brihad Bhagavatamrita 2.2 point something. Therefore, saintly authorities consider the jivas both different and non-different from the Supreme Lord. As a rule, even when the jivas are liberated, the difference endures. And in the commentary, even Shankaracharya has said, gives the Sanskrit, even the liberated accept new bodies. Even the liberated accept new bodies as their pastime to worship the Supreme Lord. In Gopi's commentary, it's Sanatana Goswami's commentary, this idea is also consistent with the statement of the Mahapuranas and other scriptures. I'll give some examples. Kartik Mahatmya section of the Padma Purana tells of an advanced sage in a human body who merged into the Supreme Lord, not into the Brahmajyoti, merged into the Supreme Lord, and then later obtained a form similar in appearance to that of Lord Narayan. Padma Purana. Similarly, in a discourse about fasting on Nrsimha Chaturdasi, the Brihad Nrsimha Purana relates how a fallen Brahmana and a prostitute merged into the Supreme and then again took birth as Prahlad Maharaj and his wife. Brihad Bhagavatamrita. They merged into the body. So only as a concession does the current verse use the word, as a general rule. Can't read it because of the diacritics. To indicate that in certain cases the Lord may, by his sweet will, allow someone to attain sayuja, the nirvana of entering his body. The point is that if merging into the body of the Supreme Lord and then you again come out as a form, the individuality isn't lost. It's refuting, I hope you don't mind philosophy, but it's refuting the Patanjali Yoga people that say something that contradicts Padma Purana and Brihad Nrsimha Purana, that merging with the body of the Lord and then again coming out with a form, individuality is retained. Form is not, but individuality is retained, even in merging. Which doesn't say anything about the causal ocean merging, which was the question. So somebody that knows Pran Govinda can ask him, where is, in that purport, is the merging into the causal ocean mentioned? Because I couldn't find it. That's just a follow-up from the morning class. Now we're ready for the evening class. Here. have to fix the 2.2 point something. So in the evening, yesterday evening, we're just continuing with something I was doing before, which is Bhismadeva's chapter, Canto 1, Chapter 9. And we read 22. So now we're going to roll on to 23. Bhaktyaveshya mano yasmin vacha yan nama kirtayan tyajan kalevaram yogi muchyate kama karmabihi. Translation: the personality of Godhead, who appears in the mind of the devotee by attentive devotion and meditation and by chanting of the holy name, releases the devotee from the bondage of fruitive activities at the time of his quitting the material body. Doesn't say it doesn't happen before either. It says it happens. Purport: yoga means concentration of the mind, detached from all other subject matter. And actually such concentration is samadhi, or 100% engagement in the service of the Lord. And one who concentrates his attention in that manner is called the yogi. Such a yogi, devotee of the Lord, engages himself 24 hours daily in the service of the Lord, so that his whole attention is engrossed with the thoughts of the Lord in ninefold devotional service, namely, and he gives all 9: hearing, chanting, remembering, worshiping, praying, becoming voluntary servant, carrying out orders, establishing friendly relationship, or offering all that one may possess in the service of the Lord. By such practice of yoga, or linking up of the service of the Lord, one is recognized by the Lord himself. As it is explained in the Bhagavad Gita concerning the highest perfectional stage of samadhi, the Lord calls such a rare devotee the best amongst all the yogis. Okay, we have a learned audience here. This is Alachua, remember. Everyone's got to be learned if you're going to stay in Alachua. I'm a little intimidated by my visits to Alachua in the past. Everyone's so smart. Okay, so what's the verse in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says what Prabhupada said Krishna says? The best of all yogis is perfect in certain ways. Okay, go ahead. You Shraddhavan? Shraddhavan? Come on. I know you're getting older. And memory doesn't work as well. These two things, just two things. Madgate nantaratmana, mind always absorbed. Shraddhavan bhajate yamam, engage in devotional service. Samyukta uttama mataha. Mataha, it's my opinion. Krishna's opinion. Krishna's opinion. My opinion. Krishna's saying, my opinion. It's my opinion. The uttama yogi is one who does these two things. He says it so simply, right? Like people that are just reading first canto, they don't have to get intimidated about, oh, I don't know that verse and what's all the Sanskrit and stuff like that. So nice. I'll say, by such practice of yoga, or linking up in the service of the Lord, one is recognized by the Lord himself. As it is explained in the Bhagavad Gita concerning the highest perfectional stage of samadhi, the Lord calls such a rare devotee the best among the yogis. Such a perfect yogi is enabled by the divine grace of the Lord to concentrate his mind upon the Lord with a perfect sense of consciousness. And thus, by chanting his holy name before quitting the body, the yogi is at once transferred by the internal energy of the Lord to one of the eternal planets, where there is no question of material life and its concomitant factors. In material existence, a living being has to endure the material conditions of threefold miseries, life after life, according to his fruitive work. Such material life is produced by material desire only. Devotional service to the Lord does not kill the natural desires of the living being, but they are applied in the right cause of devotional service. Bhismadeva is referring to a particular type of yoga called Bhakti Yoga. And he was fortunate enough to have the Lord directly in his presence before he quitted. I'm surprised that they left the quitted. Anyway, quitted his material body. He therefore desired that the Lord stay before his view in the following verses. In a previous purport, Prabhupada explained that the root cause of material existence is false ego. But primarily, my experience is, reading is, that Prabhupada's explanation is the root cause of material existence is ignorance. Flip a coin. Which one do you want? False ego or ignorance? But the root cause of material existence is ignorance. And the cure is not killing desire or anesthetizing desire. That's the Buddhist approach. Let's do the Buddhist approach. Because it's a brand of impersonalism called voidism, or the nirvana message. It's impersonalism or voidism. Nirvishesha shunyavadi. So, the root cause of suffering, desire. If you're a Buddhist, that's the answer. Fill in the blank. Desire. The way to get rid of desire, the way to get rid of suffering, get rid of desire. How to get rid of desire? I already described. Two things. Mode of goodness and mindfulness. Be in the moment, be in the moment, be in the moment, be in the moment. Get on the other side of the moment. And you're in the nirvana space. Cessation of material existence. No more desire. But as Prabhupada wrote in the previous, it's fiction. It's a fraud. Buddhism is a fraud. It's a myth. It's one of the things he says. It's a myth. So it can be suspended temporarily. Why temporarily? Because why? Because the constitution of the soul. What's the constitution of the soul? Service. Dasya. Dasya. I just got an email from a young devotee, I won't mention his name, who is Bhagavad Gita group, has been really fascinated with this this topic that's buzzing around. Is the bhakti inherent or inherited topic? I don't know if it hit down here yet. It hit. Okay. So he referred to the Hari Parshad Prabhu very nicely has been interacting with his Bhagavad Gita group and helped them understand in his very elegant manner of helping people understand things. Very respectful to other people that have other views, but very firm on bhakti is inherent. It's the nature of the soul. It's the nature of who we are. The nature of who we are is to serve God, even specifically, to serve Krishna. It's the nature of the soul. Covered. And so that service to Krishna is misdirected. We discussed this yesterday. She was helping me find the references where Prabhupada was saying this in a lecture on the fourth canto Bhagavatam. The reasons why Krishna appears is when there's discrepancy in religion. Dharma shaglani. Discrepancy in dharma. Then he explains what's dharma. It's service to God. When there's discrepancy in dharma, that service to God is misplaced. Service is who we are, but service in the pure state is service to God. It's the nature of the soul. The soul is by nature pure. So what's all this other stuff? It's a covering. And it misdirects the tendency to serve God into serving something other than God. But maybe God's in the picture, but it's kind of a platitude, not really that God's but one that's being served. So when it gets way over there, discrepancy in dharma, Krishna comes to set the record straight. This is what dharma is. And so it seems like we're in that juncture right now in the Hare Krishna movement because somebody's going around saying it's not our nature to serve God. It is bestowed. It's not our nature to serve God. It's bestowed. Well, there is something that's bestowed. And it's like the example I gave this morning. Here's a wooden table, and inside the wooden table is fire, and it's just going to sit there for a long, long time. You won't see the fire. But there's a way to get the fire to come out. You bring some other fire next to the wood, and the fire comes out. Or Ragatmika's back here, right? Yeah. I got the mango. You sent a mango, right? Who sent the mango? I wasn't supposed to know who sent it? Okay. But I have a little mango story. This was one of the devotees that was speaking, bhakti is inherent in the jiva. So here's a mango, and inside the mango is a mango seed. And if you cut open the mango seed, you're not going to find a mango tree. But the function of the mango seed, ultimate function of a mango seed, is to produce a mango tree. Now, at least a couple of the people here in this room know Pyari Mohan. And Pyari Mohan is really good as a Tulsi Pujari, but he's really good at growing things. In his backyard, he has a nice garden. He's really good at growing things. So he was curious. He wanted to plant a mango seed and see if it would grow a mango tree. So he planted a mango seed. And in the guest room, where guests stay in his house, there's a pot. And the pot is growing a mango tree. Because years ago, it taken a long time to grow the mango. It's not a big tree yet, but he keeps having to change the pot because it keeps getting bigger. And what's inside was the mango seed. But you won't cut the mango, so it's inherent in the mango seed to grow a mango tree. But you won't find it inside. It's not just a potential, but it's the word that's used is the teleological purpose. The ultimate purpose of that seed is to grow a mango tree. You won't find it geographically inside. So, in the heart of the living entity is a love of God. Not only bhakti, but love of God. But you cut open the soul, you can't do that anyways. But you're not going to find it's the inherent nature of the soul, and it becomes awakened by associating with Prabhupada's books and the holy name and those who are carrying bhakti, and so there's a reciprocation between bhakti shakti and the inherent bhakti. And you put that because it's a relationship. Bhakti is a relationship. And when that relationship is there, then the object gets into focus. And the other objects can, become less important and eventually see all those other things that are otherwise material objects as meant for service to Krishna. Exactly what you were saying this morning. Exactly what you were saying this morning. Seeing everything in relation to Krishna. And it's just simply an opportunity for service to Krishna. Simply an opportunity. So, many devotees are moving to Alachua. There's probably a reason. Besides the schools, there's nice bhakti here, and that's attractive. And those that like bhakti are attracted to bhakti, and it's helping to grow bhakti. So just be really careful to not get distracted by things that are not bhakti, like bhakti isn't in the soul. Yeah. Yarbar.
Which clears everything up. I can't quote the verse. It says the bhakti is the inherent nature of every soul.
Yes.
And it's very simple.
Well, there are some people say that that's fiction.
Uh-oh.
It's a misunderstanding of what our acharya, the acharyas of our sampradaya have given us. I mean, lots of things can clear it up, but some persons read something else.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, it is. It's gotten some traction, at least in some circles. But in one sense, it's good because now there are persons not with boxing gloves on. I mean, you read what Hari Parshad has written, and I don't know if it can be circulated from the audience. He's very respectful. He's very respectful. He's not trampling and dueling and boxing and that kind of thing. He's just presenting what our sampradaya has said. And this other Sundar Gopal is another nice devotee that to this devotee that wrote, it's been a buzz in their Bhagavad Gita class, and Hari Parshad helped to clear it up. I said, why don't you listen to this? I've listened to this. It's 3 hours long, and I've listened to it about 4 or 5 times because it's really clear. And it's good to be clear when you run into something it's not. I'm sorry, I'm disturbed. But it's not an ad hominem thing about the person that's saying this, but the principle of undercutting the faith in our current acharyas, plural, going back to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, where it's a fiction. And, saying that he created a fiction because it was a preaching strategy for the people, his audience of the time. And then Bhakti Siddhanta followed it, and Prabhupada followed it, and the shelf life of the fiction story is no longer needed. So now let's get back to what our philosophy really is. Anyway, I'm making a point about it in part because I've been absorbed in it, but I've been absorbed in it because I think it's important that we read Prabhupada's books and we understand. I'm sure some of our Prabhupada disciples here remember hearing about Mayavadis. And it's like, what's that? Right? Did you remember that thought? Like Prabhupada would speak about it so often. What's a Mayavadi anyways? And then, but he was preparing us for encountering, and we were well prepared. Anyway, back to our... You have something? Yeah? You can certainly, but there are people online, so can we just give you that little microphone? And
So is Bhakti and Bhakti-lata, are they different?
Bhakti and Bhakti Rasa?
Lata.
Lata. Let me ask you. I'll give you the answer before I gave you the multiple choice question. It's all of the above is the answer. A tulsi is A, it's a seed. B, tulsi is when a little shoot comes out and there's 2 leaves. C, tulsi is where tulsi becomes a full-blown plant and there's tulsi manjaris. D, tulsi is when there's not only tulsi manjaris, but there's more seeds. And the last one is it's all of the above. Tulsi is all of the above. So does that answer your question? The lata is the creeper, and bhakti is the seed. Bhakti-lata-bija. So I'm going to ask another question and see who wants to answer the question. A and B. This is, is bhakti inherent or is bhakti bestowed? In Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's the celebrated verse, which most of us will know. Brahmanda Brahmite Konda Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasadi Bhai Bhakti-lata-bija. Bhakti-lata-bija. And one receives the Bhakti-lata-bija from Guru and Krishna. By their prasad, by their mercy, one receives the seed of bhakti. So that sounds like, that's A, bhakti is bestowed. Then we have the one over here that says, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sajya Kabonoi Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Karaye Yudoi, which means not only Krishna Bhakti, but Krishna Prema is the constitution of every living entity. Krishna Prema. And when Shravanadi, it's awakened. Shravanadi, Shuddha Chitte, consciousness becomes Shuddha, cleansed, purified by Shravana, etc., Shravanadi, by the process of bhakti. So, help me understand that. Who wants to explain? Do they sound to be like, if it's this, it's not that, and if it's that, it's not this? It sounds like a contradiction, right? You're not sure. You're clear what the question is? He wants to give you the...
I wonder if we can apply the principle of Achinta Bheda Tattva in this regard.
Okay, you explain how Achinta Bheda Tattva resolves this contradiction. No. It's like Achinta Bheda Tattva, where it appears to be a contradiction, but it's not. But So someone else wants to help me with this? Is the contradiction clear? Apparent contradiction clear? Okay. Go ahead.
I'll try, Maharaj. I mean, my understanding is the earlier example you gave with Tulsi seed. The plant is there, but it is not, I mean, we can't see the plant until we sow the seed and the plant comes out. So the bhakti is inherent to the soul, but until it is given by a Krishna or Guru, it won't be maybe visible.
Eligible?
Visible, I mean, not.
Visible. Visible. Okay. Visible is different than eligible. Okay. Anybody else? That's nice. I hope you could understand because he speaks very quickly. Any of our other learned devotees want to volunteer an explanation? Yeah.
The example that you gave this morning was about fire being present in wood,
Yes.
stored in wood. It's
Yes.
there,
Yes.
but it won't come out until you set a
Bring
match
fire.
to it.
Yeah. Or the mango seed. Within the mango seed is a mango tree, but you cut open the mango seed, you're not going to find a tree in there. You cut open the soul, you're not going to find love of God there. It's a different kind of, it's within the soul, it's of the soul. It's using the language of this nice explanation, it's a teleological inherence. It's a purposeful inherence, but it requires nurturing for that purposeful inherence nature to come out. And the nurture part is the association of one who's carrying bhakti, who is empowered by Krishna to bestow bhakti. It's ultimately Krishna, but it's through the medium of Krishna's representative devotees who he empowers to bestow bhakti on his behalf. So it's an apparent contradiction that's not really a contradiction. Both are required, and they're happening simultaneously because it's a relationship between Krishna and the devotee. And when the representative of Krishna, or the bhakti shakti of Krishna comes to the soul, then it can awaken. Now, the soul can say, no. I want to play. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. But if one is thinking, one has the capacity to think shreyas instead of preyas, then, and in association of devotees, the jigyasu, like just being inquisitive, I want to know. I want to know. And the more one wants to know, and then that bhakti shakti comes, it's like, wow, that was good. And then bhakti grows. And the coverings, the dharma glani, the misdirected essence of the soul becomes realigned. Or at least the potential is there to become realigned. I say potential because one of the difficulties in bhakti life is complacency. And we all know that space. The initial impetus for bhakti was one of four things, and then one of those four things, or combination, become satisfied. Then comes, thank you very much, Krishna, see you later. I'm busy now, enjoying. So complacency is a problem. So staying with the gift that has been given, has been bestowed, so that the innate bhakti and prema bhakti can arise and awaken fully. That's what we do on our part. And we then you realize, boy, I need a lot of mercy because I'm not very strong. My determination is not very strong. My sense of purpose is not very strong. It's there sometimes, and sometimes it's weaker. And sometimes it's a little better, and sometimes it's weaker. So I'm in this unsteady stage. I need to make strong effort, purpose, dedication, drita vrata. And I need a lot of mercy. Ragatmika, you have something. We have a microphone. We'll pass back.
We have heard how by jnana or karma one cannot get bhakti.
Yes.
Bhakti begets bhakti.
Yes.
That little phrase,
Yes.
is that indicating the inherent or the inherited and being
It's
inherited?
bestowed, but the fullness comes. The fullness comes because it's already our nature. It's already our nature. I mean, it's part of it is related to this little thing that I read about the Patanjali Yoga folks have an idea of merging with the body of the Supreme Lord. And then this contradiction that says even those that merge into the body of the Supreme Lord, they maintain their individuality. When they come out of the body of the Supreme Lord, they take another form because they're still individual. So individuality, it's our individuality and the nature of that individuality. It's not a superimposition. That's another one. The chanting of the holy name is not an imposition, artificial imposition upon the mind. Means it's our nature. So it's just a combination of the two. Back to your question. It's the combination of the two. Go ahead.
Can I recall what Satyananda Swami gave this nice analogy.
He's really good at
When
analogies.
he was here. He spoke of how to inspire us in chanting, and he gave a few little suggestions. And he gave the analogy of a rusty well, a well that apparently is not pumping water, and it's screeching, So he says you have to prime the well by pouring water down the
Pipe.
where the rod goes, yeah. And then when that water contacts the water down below, then you're going to get a flow. So it's kind of like that.
Yes,
When,
yes.
when we come in, or by good fortune, come in contact with one who is imbibed bhakti,
Yes.
then it will ignite our.
Yeah.
What?
Yes. Very good. I didn't get very far with the purport because we got this Alachua bhav going on here. You have something? No, give it over here.
I just remember this purport 1 to 32, where Prabhupada talks about something similar to what you said. He says that as fire is kindled from wood by another fire, the divine consciousness of man can similarly be kindled by another divine grace. His divine grace, the spiritual master, can kindle the spiritual fire from the wood-like living entity by imparting proper spiritual messages injected through the receptive ear.
Right on, brother. Here we go.
So, if I understand, we may be very good at lighting things on fire, but we can't light something on fire that's not flammable. We may be a very good preacher, but we can't bestow bhakti on an inanimate object because the nature for bhakti to come is not.
Well,
there like it
if
is
you're
in the
Lord
soul.
Chaitanya, you can do it. He can melt rocks. I mean, get trees to dance. I mean, he... Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Just a thought comes to my mind about the concept of Tatashta Shakti. The jiva is constitutionally internal potency, but it's covered by the external potency.
It's marginal potency. Covered. It can be covered this way, that way.
Yeah.
Marginal potency.
Inherently spiritual.
Inherently spiritual, yes.
Covered by material energy.
Yes. Covered by forgetfulness.
But this other concept would be that the jiva is a product of the external energy, and the whole Tatashta Shakti concept would be false.
Well, it's not. It's the second part. I'm want to edit or object a little bit. The claimants of this other idea is not that the living entity is material energy and it becomes spiritualized by contact with spirit. It's spiritual energy, but like a blank slate, neutral, not possessing bhakti. It's a vessel that can hold bhakti, but it's not possessing bhakti to be awakened. That's at least my understanding of what this other idea has to say. Not that we're in a different category of Shakti. We're Tatastha Shakti, but just neutral, passive.
So that would mean that the source of the Tatashta Shakti is like impersonal Brahman or something.
Something like that. Something doesn't go that far, but something like that. Neutral, passive, to be filled. Someone else had their hand up in the back. No? Okay, Ragatmika.
Just makes me think, what is their purpose, or what is causing them to create this misconception? As if like a frustration.
There's some history. There's some history.
Meaning?
Well, once upon a time, there was a person who broke away from Siddhanta, one of his learned followers. And then his learned follower had a follower. And his follower had a follower. So it's an idea. Where does the idea come from? It comes from a fertile brain that wants to one-up, Bhaktisiddhanta. That's, a kind of crude way of saying where it came from, but it's one way of saying where it came from. But it's well thought out. It's well thought out, articulated idea from a fertile brain.
Oh.
Yeah, very intelligent. But, very, very gifted in using words and speaking in compelling language and things like that. That's it's maybe not nice for me to say something like that, but that's my understanding in really crude language. There's some history. But there are we the followers of our founder Acharya, ISKCON members, should be. It's good to become aware of the possibilities. Just like I mentioned, Prabhupada inoculated us against impersonalism. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi. Who wrote his pranam mantra? Probably him, because who else would have written his pranam mantra? Who knows Sanskrit? So that was his mantra, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi. So before we met any of that species, we were inoculated. So we, going forward in time, are going to encounter recycled stuff. And where did it come from? It came from somewhere down, upstream. And here it is, getting recycled. Right in our own sangha. So we should not have boxing gloves on, but, be prepared to know what our Siddhanta is. So we have to read Prabhupada's books. And, it's good to have people who are learned in where the root of Prabhupada's books come from. It's just like that little thing that I did just here with, it's very simple language. Prabhupada said something that's a Bhagavad Gita verse. He didn't say verse number, chapter number. He just said it very simply. But when you know Prabhupada's books and you know the teachings of our acharyas, then it's very clear. Prabhupada is just simply presenting the knowledge of disciplic succession. But someone can come along and say something else. It's a preaching strategy. It was part of the message that was being. It's Siddhanta. It's not the teaching of Jiva Goswami and Rupa Goswami. It's a fiction. It was called the Stork Story. The Stork Story. Where does children come from? Someone doesn't have the capacity to understand the human reproductive system, so a child is told the Stork Story. And that's what but the shelf life of the Stork Story is no longer. So that's the modern way of covering, but the root of it. So we need to be prepared, not complacent, not feisty either. Just be faithful and receive the message carefully. And be ready when someone comes along with something that's over there or some other place, where we don't get disturbed. There are some people who are kind of on the bandwagon, as far as I can tell. How are we doing? Should I read the purport again? Maybe get off in a... Okay. Yeah. Yoga means, this is back to the purport, short purport. Concentration of the mind, detached from all other subject matter. And actually such concentration is samadhi, 100% engagement in the service of the Lord. And one who concentrates his attention in this manner is called the yogi. 24 hours, daily, in the service of the Lord, so that his whole attention is engrossed with the thought of the Lord in the ninefold processes. By such process, there's this particular phrase I'm looking for. By such practice of yoga or linking up in the service of the Lord, one is recognized by the Lord himself. We read that. Here we go. In material existence, a living being has to endure material conditions of threefold miseries, life after life, according to his fruitive work. Such material life is produced by material desires only. Devotional service to the Lord does not kill the natural desires of the living being, but they are applied in the right cause of devotional service. There was some phrase. There was a kind of extended discussion about distracted chanting and getting away from distracted chanting. And there's effort to be focused, and there's the bestowal of grace to get focused, to be successful. It's the bhakti process once again. It's the descending mercy, using different nice terms, Swarup Shakti or Bhakti Shakti or Karuna Shakti or something. Different terms are used. But that's available through representatives, and the representatives are representing the Supreme Lord. It's by His grace, His divine grace. His divine grace can be the spiritual master. It can be His divine grace. That's Krishna. It's to get to the stage where it's speaking of here, where there's 24/7. It's just the mind is absorbed with nothing else. Practice, practice, practice. Mercy, mercy, mercy. Practice, practice, practice. Mercy, mercy, mercy. Practice, practice, practice. And you just live one's life that way consistently without complacency. Perfection is available. It's bestowed. And it's natural. Okay, so I think that covers what I wanted to say. See if there's any final thing. Oh, our host.
Thank you, Maharaj. Prabhupada has given us this wonderful process that by selflessly serving others, I can be genuinely happy. And we experience that, by serving others, sometimes I experience, we get that happiness by selflessly serving others. But in Grihastha life, not always. There are challenges. How to keep myself motivated and keep going.
How to keep yourself motivated. Well, how do you get warm when you're cold? Stand near a fire, you get warm. When you're cold. The Bhaktivinoda Thakur uses the phrase about enthusiasm, and the phrase that he uses, as long as enthusiasm doesn't become cold, then he goes on to describe what happens when it stays warm. So if you're getting cold, you stand near a fire, you become warm. So be sadhu sangha, where it's not mechanical, but it's devotional. That is, you with a spiritual conception of what sadhu sangha means, you open your heart to the person who's bearing bhakti, and you receive bhakti from those who are bearing bhakti, and you appreciate the mercy that's being bestowed upon you through that association, and you try to serve that person or those persons. I mean, when you say that the nature of in its most simple form, the nature of bhakti, this is from Jiva Goswami. The very simple form of bhakti is just, I like to serve. And when the like to serve nature is connected to something that's connected to Krishna, like some people like to serve prasadam. There's some business people I know, corporate people I know, their favorite part of their week is going to the temple and going into the pot room and washing pots. They look forward to it. They don't go to the kirtan or they take darshan of the deities, but their happiness is being in that simple mood of cleaning Krishna's pots. And they probably have some realization about what it feels like. Oh, you like to serve, so serve the those who are carrying bhakti. I'm not to say you don't do that, but I'm just responding to your question. And when you do that, you feel sustained enthusiasm. This is right. That there are obstacles to sustained enthusiasm, and that's our own contaminations of heart. I'm going to share a little pot washing story. Here goes. Once upon a time, I was a very new devotee, and I decided I wanted to live in a temple. I was practicing, and I just got this inspiration. I want to be in a temple. I want to immerse myself in that which I know Prabhupada created for persons like me, so we could get an immersion in bhakti life. So I had a little Volkswagen Bug and drove all the way from my university to Boston. It took me, I left early in the morning, it got there Sunday evening, and as soon as I got there, someone said, "Oh, great, can you come to the pot room and help us wash pots?" Like, wait a minute, I'm hungry and tired, and we'll save you some prasadam and wash pots. And it turns out the next day I found out they needed a pot washer. So there I was, a young college kid, prideful college kid, thinking, I'm giving up a medical career to come and wash pots at the Hare Krishna temple. So that was my service, washing pots. And the devotees would go out on Harinam. They passed right by the pot room and pat me on the back saying, "Haribo, Haribo." And I was like, and one devotee said, "Prabhupada said when you wash the pots, you're cleansing your heart." And my sarcastic self was saying, "Oh yeah, well why don't you stand here and help me?" I didn't say it. So I kept washing pots. Satsrup Maharaj was a grahasta at the time. He was the president. He gave me the service. They needed a pot washer, so I was the guy. And I did such a good job, they kept me at it. And then somebody else came along and said that Prabhupada said that you should wash the pot so carefully that you can see yourself in the bottom of the pot, like a mirror. And at that time we couldn't buy pots, we had used pots. And the bottom of the pot, I don't know if he meant that, the cooking part or the bottom of the flame goes, but I took it seriously. I'm going to make the bottom of every pot so clean you can see your reflection in the bottom of those caked on black stuff at the bottom of the pot. So every day was like, get some more black off. And finally, that day came a month later when you could see your face in the bottom of the pot. The bottom, the fire part. Somebody tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, you want to come with us in Sankirtan? We have another person to wash the pots." And so I had, the light went on. What Krishna was doing was helping me become free from pride. That was a big obstacle. I mean, it wasn't like I wasn't thinking like that, but obviously Krishna saw that, and he was just helping me get rid of that. Because, Sankirtan was my life for years. Didn't do anything else but that. But there's a qualification. So if you're feeling there's some, your enthusiasm isn't sufficient, make sure you get nice association with devotees and you serve them. And in whatever way is meaningful of service. It suits your nature, of course, but something meaningful. And serve with your heart, serve the devotees. Vaishnav Seva. It's one of the essential principles incorporated in Lord Chaitanya's teachings that he took, according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and according to Bhakti Siddhanta, that he took from the Sri Sampradaya. Serve the Vaishnavas. Do lots of Vaishnav Seva. your enthusiasm will be there because something happens. Your Krishna connection is strengthened and the obstacles are removed. So let's take prasadam. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Oh, you already had prasadam. You had prasadam already? Has anyone here not had prasadam yet? You all had prasadam. You want to take some prasadam. There was birthday cake and the whole thing. I brought some prasadam, yes? Some mahaprasadam from 3 different places. Huh? Okay. Oh, this is from here. Okay. Looks like cookies. Yes? Next time, let's give out birthday because I like giving out birthday.